back, everybody. Today we're going over this rifle right here. I've had a ton of requests over the years to review one of the M1A rifles from Springfield Armory, and now's the time to do it. So what we have here is their sort of do-all rifle. At least that's the way Springfield Armory markets it. So it's sort of an in-between size. They make a SOCOM that has a 16-inch barrel. Then, of course, their standard M1As have the 22-inch barrel and a ton of different configurations out there. This one sort of is the sweet spot, if you will, with an 18-inch barrel. So it has the Scout-style optics, which we'll get into a good bit coming up. But before we get into the details, I just want to point out, I wanted to thank Optics Planet for sending out this scope to use throughout the review. This is the Burris 2x7. We're going to get into the details a little bit later on, but Optics Planet always offers the viewers here on the channel a discount code, so it's down here on the bottom of your screen to get 5% off anything over at Optics Planet, and all the links and stuff to the scope will be down in the video description, so make sure you check those out. But we've had this rifle in for a while now, probably 6 or 8 months, been putting a ton of rounds through it, and have had zero malfunctions of any kind. The thing just runs and asks for more ammo, which is exactly what you want out of a rifle like this. So what we're going to do is let the dogs take a look at it, go outside to the range, see what kind of accuracy we can get out of it, because I know certainly on the forums I've heard some whispers that these rifles aren't as accurate unless you go ahead and get the national match barrels and all that stuff, and that you need to do that if you want to have good accuracy. So we're going to see what it'll get with this scope on there and with this guy behind the trigger.
We're going to see what kind of accuracy we can get out of this setup here. We have the Burris scope up front that we'll talk about a little bit more later on. Sitting at a CTK precision stock, target downrange at 100 yards. As you guys can probably see around me, we got some wind kicking up today. But 308 should be all right within 100 yards. It's probably going to play a little bit of a role, but not too much. So we got a few different loads up. First up is going to be the 178 grain AMAX load from Freedom Munitions, and fire 5-shot groups and see what she can do. From here, that group looks pretty good, so we'll see. Next up, we'll fire some Gorilla ammunition. This stuff is super accurate. I talk about it. I use it in pretty much every one of my accuracy reviews because it's a consistent round, the same with the Federal that we're about to use. Not to say that the Freedom's not, it's just this stuff is you know, it's premium ammunition, of course, priced accordingly, but if you want good accuracy, oftentimes, not always, oftentimes you have to pay for it. This one uses the 175 grain Sierra Match King bullet, and we'll slide it in the magazine here. Get it rocking. The chamber looks pretty dirty. That's usually a good sign though for accuracy. I just jinxed myself. I didn't see the mag. There we go. Huh, that was a failure to fire there. Hold on. Let's try that again. What kind of chicanery is going on here? Alright, locked open, so it's clean enough to do that at least. Now we'll do the Sierra Match King. Just some thoughts on cheek weld, I guess, while we're loading this up. One thing I would say is that we have real low rings on. They're low rings. That's what they're called. That's the height of them. I believe those are Burris rings. And even with that, I would want about a ½ inch more on the stock. Now I know they make risers and stuff like that, so if I was going to shoot this rifle for a long time out in the field and stuff like that, I would definitely get one. It's doable without it, for sure, but I would probably want it for a little bit more comfortable cheek weld. Of course, with the irons, it's perfect. Let's go check them out. All right, so just to let you guys know what you just saw there, I moved this point of aim on the last group over because there was a rogue soybean in my way. So, soybean leaf, so I had to move it over because I couldn't engage this one. However, first group we had with the Freedom Munitions AMAX stuff, right here. We are looking at right about 1.25 inches. I mean, it might be an inch, inch and a quarter. So pretty good group there. They moved over with the Gorilla ammunition. Had that one sort of outlier there. The trigger pull felt good, so I'm not sure what was going on there. But with that one, we came in at 1 3/4 inches and moved back to the Federal gold medal match. So on that one, we're looking at right at 1.5 inches. So, you know, we had wind out here today for sure. And even with that, looking at 1 inch to 1.5 inches, I'd say, with pretty good loads. Certainly not bad at all.
We'll get into the details of the rifle, start out on the end, and work our way back. We have a Springfield Armory proprietary muzzle brake out front. One thing that is nice is that overall this rifle is very soft shooting for a 308 semi-automatic rifle. No doubt about it, the gas system plays a part in that, as does the weight, but this brake out here on the front does as well. So if you want quick follow-up shots, no doubt about it, it certainly will help keep you on target. However, you're going to have a bunch of flame out of there and you're going to have some blast. It can be a little bit loud. If you're shooting indoors, it might even get a little bit annoying. So just pointing that out up front. So moving on back, we have an excellent front sight here. It's the 0.062 inch national match front sight, and when you pair that with the rear aperture sight, this rifle has some of the best, if not the best, iron sights I've ever used for a rifle. It's very, very easy to get consistent hits at distance with these things, and they're just awesome all the way around. The Garand was known for that, and the M1A is no exception. For those unfamiliar with the rifle, this is our gas block here. So unlike the AR where it goes up, on the Garands as well as the M1As and M14s, it comes down, and here is the piston, rides underneath the handguards. So if you guys want to check out any of the disassembly of this rifle, how to clean and lubricate it, I have a video on that. You'll get to see the operating system in very good detail in that video. For the expediency of this one, I'm going to leave it sort of together and just go over the features of it, but definitely all the details are in that video that you guys can check out. So the barrel here is a carbon steel 18-inch barrel. It's got a 1-in-11 twist. You guys just saw how it shoots. Seems to shoot just fine. I know some people think that they want to have, you know, the highest grade M1A, M14 barrels on there. And if you're shooting competition, by all means, go for it. But for most folks, the groups that we saw out there today are perfectly acceptable, and we'll be able to get the job that most people want out of this rifle, whether it be hunting, ranch, pest control, or even home defense. If you guys want to use 308 for home defense, this certainly would be a good option. The M1A, M14 series of rifles are very proven, and this one has had a grand total of 0 malfunctions at all. So you can't complain about that track record. Moving on to the stock and the handguard, you can see we do have the checkering built into the polymer handguard here, and it does come in several different options. We have the flat dark earth here. There's a black version of the Scout as well as a wood version of the Scout. So we have a sling swivel right here on the bottom. So if you want to attach your standard 2-point slings, you can do so. And we have this little hole cut out here on the bottom. Now, something I want to point out, if you guys want to attach a bipod to this rifle, you definitely need to look and make sure that the underside, i.e. the part of the bipod mount that fits underneath the stock, doesn't interfere with the gas system. There's a bunch out there that will fit the full-size M1As but don't fit the Scouts. So definitely read the description of the product you're looking at and pick the right one that will fit. So I have one that I used on my full-size M1A, and it does not fit on here, so just pointing that out. But they do make ones that do. So just if you're looking around, just Google it and make sure it works on the Scout, because it might say M1A but might not work on this one. So again, up front here where you're going to hold it, it has good grips, and the stock is nice and lightweight. Seems to be pretty sturdy and durable as well. It's a 2-piece design where the whole stock here on the bottom comes off for cleaning, and then we have the top piece of the handguard that you need to remove the gas system to be able to remove. Again, thanks to Optics Planet for sending out this Burris scope, and what this one is here is a 2x7 version, and this has the ballistic plex reticle in there, and this is a long eye relief scope, also known as a Scout scope. And what that allows you to do is have a much longer eye relief to be able to get the proper sight picture for Scout type rifles, which of course this fits that bill. And there's a couple really popular ones out there. The most popular is going to be the Loophole, but I wanted to take a look at this one because I haven't seen a lot on it. And the big reason is that it allows an extremely low mounting system. So these rings right here, again, we'll put a link down in the video description for these. These came from Optics Planet as well. But you can see how low they sit on there. It allows you to have a really natural cheek weld on the rifle, which is not always the case with some of the other Scout optics out there. So this one here, again, has the ballistic plex reticle, and what I did here on the screen just to kind of show you how that works is I went and plugged in the data of the 150 grain Freedom Munitions 308 that I was using throughout the majority of this video, and just to see how the holdovers here on this scope work. And you guys can see how they work, but of course you want to actually plug in your load data with the scope if you do that, because it's going to vary round to round. Of course, with the 150 grain bullet, it's a little bit lighter weight, going a little bit faster than some of the heavier grain stuff out there. So you definitely want to make sure it's calibrated to your rifle and your load. And really, once you get that dialed in, it can be very effective just using the holdovers at distance. That way you don't have to guess as much as you would if you just had, say, like a duplex type reticle. But overall, very good scope. The thing I like about it is that the adjustments here on the back are stiff, and the reason I say I like that is that for a field type optic or hunting type optic, it's not that likely, in my opinion, that you would want to really throw it super fast. And what it prevents is it from getting bumped out of place. So if you're out there hunting, walking through the brush, it's not going to get grabbed and turned. Whereas if you have it set for 2x, because in case you want a real quick snapshot with it, you're not going to have to worry about it being on 7x when you bring it up to your shoulder. So I do like that for this type of optic. You can see underneath the cap turrets that we do have adjustment knobs in there, and those are quarter MOA knobs, so it's going to move approximately a quarter of an inch at 100 yards when you're actually zeroing it in. It's meant to dial it in and forget it and use those holdovers like we showed with the reticle earlier. It is not illuminated, so some folks certainly aren't going to like that. If you're hunting at night or using it for some sort of home defense type use, that probably could be a disadvantage to it. And when I say night, I really mean low light. But for most situations, it works just fine. And one thing I like about the Scouts type scope is that it gives you a very good sort of situational awareness. A lot of people have a tendency to get lost in the scope and only focus on what they see going through the scope. So with the Scout type option, it forces you to look through it and have both eyes open for a good situational awareness, particularly on 2x. It's very easy to do and stay on target. So that's sort of the advantage of having a Scout type scope. So the downside of it is that you get a little bit more weight out front. It makes the rifle a little bit front heavy. But on the M1As and M14s, the alternative option is mounting it back here above your action. And while that's perfectly doable, if you do that, you're generally going to need some sort of cheek riser because it has to come up off the action. And it's just not going to be ideal unless you have a cheek riser or you build your stock up. But with the factory stock, you're not going to be able to get that good cheek weld like you can here with this Scout scope. Continuing to move back, we have the action of the rifle. Here's our charging handle, very ergonomic for a lot of folks. Anybody who's used to AKs, you just run the charging handle. It is reciprocating, so just keep your thumbs out of the way, but for most folks, you're not going to be anywhere near that. We do have our mag well down here, and it will take any of the M1A or M14 standard mags. It comes with the 10-round mag from Springfield Armory, the one that you guys saw me using throughout portions of the video, and then we have this 15-round mag here. Also, Springfield Armory factory mag. This was sent out to us by Gun Mag Warehouse, so I didn't have to reload 10 rounds over and over again. And they have good deals on these mags, and also a lot of times over there they have surplus mags. I'm not sure if they do at the time of this review, but surplus M14 mags are also great. So just want to caution you guys who are new to these rifles, I definitely don't recommend Pro mags, and there's definitely some other sort of aftermarket M14 style mags that are going to probably give you trouble and really wouldn't be worth it in my opinion. So surplus USGI mags, the factory Springfield mags, those are certainly going to be good, and I'm sure there's a couple other good ones out there, but definitely in my opinion it's worth paying the extra couple bucks if you're shooting, you know, rounds that cost 50 cents or more. With every trigger pull you want to have it be reliable and have good mags. On the subject of magazines, we should show you how they work because I did fumble it out there during the accuracy portion. We have the little cutout here up front as well as the little lip here on the back, so you're going to want to insert it front forward and then rock it to the rear. So rock and lock type magazine, sort of like an AK. We have the little release lever here on the back, and to release you're just going to push forward your thumb and pull out. So certainly it is ambidextrous for you lefty guys out there, and actually it's probably an easier rifle to shoot for left-handed shooters due to the way the charging handle is here as well. It's perfectly fine for right-handed shooters as well, but just pointing that out, definitely it is a lefty friendly rifle for sure. The safety on the gun is one of the downsides a lot of people are going to point out here in modern times, to have the safety inside the trigger guard. So it is on safe now, and that would be fire. So generally speaking, you don't want to put your finger in the trigger guard unless you're about to fire, but in this case you have to manipulate the safety either way. So just pointing that out. The rear sight, like we talked about, awesome rear sight. It is has really nice fine adjustments here for both windage and elevation on the two knobs. And like I mentioned earlier, some of the best irons out there, no doubt about it. They simply just work really, really well. You can feed the rifle through stripper clips here if you don't want to remove your mag. I'm not sure why you would do that, but if you wanted to for whatever reason, you can. It does give you that option by just pulling it to the back and hitting the bolt lock back here. The rear portion of the stock assembly is nothing too fancy at all. We have the checkering here on the grip to give you a nice positive purchase on there. We have a sling swivel here on the back and a pretty generous, about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch rubber butt pad to soak up that recoil. Again, with the Scout and a low mount, you will get a nice cheek weld here with just the factory stock. We hit most of the details of the rifle itself, but a few other things we want to talk about. First and foremost, it's based on the M14 Action, which is a very proven design. I think that was adopted in the 60s or 70s by the US military and sort of was phased out for a couple decades and made a resurgence here recently. The M14 in a modern configuration is still used today by our US military and has actually been proven a very effective weapon on today's battlefield, particularly over in Afghanistan, where U.S. troops have been engaging at longer distances due to the terrain over there. It found a new home, and they came back in, and a whole new generation of soldiers and Marines have been trained on it, and it's still an excellent weapon to this day. And of course, it uses the same operating system, magazines, and stuff like that that we talked about here in the video, and can trace its lineage back to the Garand. So this operating system has been around a while. It's very proven. It's very durable. It's one of the few .308 battle rifle systems that I think I personally would put my life on, of course, after thorough testing. But I would stake my life on it. It's a very, very reliable system, good system, proven system. So what does it cost to have that kind of a system? Well, on the M1As, they tend to be some of the cheapest of the proven battle rifles out there in 308, if that makes sense. So this rifle, I believe the MSRP on it is right around $1,800. Street price, you're going to find them $1,500 to $1,700 for the Scout version here. And of course, for the standard M1As, they can be a little bit cheaper for the base model or a lot more expensive for some of the national match models. So it varies all over the place, but if you look across, you know, sort of the landscape of 308 battle rifles, you know, you have the SCAR, the G3 variants, and the FAL variants, and the M1A variants, or M14 variants that are sort of proven, reliable, durable 308 actions. So this one, compared to those other ones, is probably the cheapest that you're going to find out there on the market. So it's certainly proven. I've had zero issues with it in this configuration or any other configuration. And if you take the time to sort of work around the idiosyncrasies of the M1 compared to some of the earlier or more common rifles of today, I should say, like the AR-15 or something like that, it's not bad at all. It takes a little bit of time to learn, but once you do, it's a fun rifle. It's very accurate. Like you guys saw, 308 is still a very competent round even today. So all around, I definitely like the rifle. I'm probably going to do a review on the full-size one eventually as well, so stay tuned for that, guys. One thing I know I forgot was the trigger. I didn't mention it, and I should have. It's a 2-stage trigger, and has, of course, your first stage, which is just the take up, and then once you hit the wall, it breaks right at 4.5 pounds. At least mine does here on this rifle. So not too light for a sort of battle trigger, but light enough that you can get good accuracy with it, which we saw out there. So I think that's it. If you guys have any questions, you can always post down below in the comment section. You can also post over at my Facebook page as always. But thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so. And we hope to see you in the next video.